Now, the writing of this series was a choice. Hello everybody, today we have a special discussion all about Cursed. I discussed the series loosely in my last video by ranking the characters, but I did insinuate a little bit that this may not have been my favourite thing that I have seen in recent years, or for the whole of my life. I would not be going into specific scenes at the start of this video, so you can stick around. If you are not aware, the series is based on the book of the same name by Frank Miller and Tom Wheeler, and instead of following King Arthur as most of the legends do, the focus turns to Nimue, and she becomes the chosen one to lead as they are being hunted down by the Red Paladins throughout the series. I was so excited for this because it had all of the elements that I enjoy in a TV show. It was one of my most anticipated things ever, and then I watched it. Objectively speaking, this plot had so much potential because it's always very cool when you flip a legend, as you can see a myth that you're already very familiar with from another angle. So I was expecting a very unique take on a fantasy show. However, this series is very clearly trying to mirror Game of Thrones, and I hate to even try and compare this to Game of Thrones because it's my biggest pet peeve when every single fantasy series is automatically put up against it. Now, its biggest detriment, and where it completely fails to come even close to Game of Thrones, only up until seasons 6/7 of course, because the rest don't exist, but we had a very good sense of time and the world building was very deep. We knew where all the different places within Westeros were set out. Whenever there was a massive travelling montage, you felt the weeks and the days going by. Here, however, you have no sense of time. You have Nimue, who gets on a horse and travels back and forth different places throughout the series, and you don't know if they are down the road, if they are miles away. It's all up for interpretation, and that really makes it hard to immerse yourself and feel as though this is a believable world. This series didn't have a genre because it's pulling at those very dark and gory elements that you would expect in a epic fantasy, but it fails to fully commit to them because it appears as if it wants to also appeal to a younger audience. So you feel as if you're watching a teen drama and then heads are literally being thrown across the screen. Now, the writing of this series was a choice. It is the most erratic script that I think I've ever encountered, and I have watched a lot of TV. I think we were all expecting for this to mirror The Witcher, in that it will have very deep world building, but this just came across as though someone had a piece of string, they cut it up, lost some of the pieces, mushed it together, enjoy. I mean, the objective throughout the series changed every single episode, and I had no idea where it was heading. Even though I loved the finale episode as a whole, it was still as if someone just cut up a bunch of scenes and said, okay, fill in the gaps yourself. It just didn't follow through. And I must say, I cackled at the musical placements. It came across a little bit as a school project. Imagine you have a normal scene, everything that's happening is very mundane, and then two characters who are love interests suddenly look at each other, and then you have romantic sounds that just cuts into the scene. There was no transition. I don't need to be told how to feel in scenes. It should be automatic. Now, the animated transitions was something else. Am I watching CBBC? That would have been fine if it was being made for clearly a younger audience. But you can't go down that route and then have people slicing each other up and showing me dead animals, because it just doesn't pair up. I'm now going to move on and talk about specific scenes, so this will of course have spoilers. So we're going to begin episode 1, how exciting, we're watching a new show, and the very first scene put me off the whole thing. And quite honestly, if I wasn't so subjective to this cast, because I was very excited about the people involved, I probably would have turned off. It came across as so awkward, the way Nimue is just walking into this clearing. Oh, hello, I'm just going to show off my powers so you know what this is about. But then I'm not going to be consistent with this power, and it's just going to come up when it's convenient for the plot. I mean, honestly, moment of silence for the cringe death of my soul. So then Nimue is said to be the chosen one, but of course I don't want it, and she runs off to the shipyard with Pym, who we love Pym, and they make it back. And keep in mind that we were introduced to Nimwe's power multiple times before the attack on the village. First of all, you of course have her attacking that boy. She tricks the guy at the pub with the dice. She clearly was manipulating the outcome, right? And I've seen a lot of people say that her power is affected by her emotions. She seemed pretty chill to me then. So explain to me why she was not able to use any sort of power to even attempt to save her mother when she was being attacked. Are you just going to stand by and decide to watch this play out? And even if your power isn't affected by your emotions, you have a bloody massive sword that, you know, even if you're not a good fighter, I mean, throwing it about at least in front of you a little bit would be something. And also, I don't even understand how this village was overtaken so fast anyway. The Rat Paladins are humans, apart from the Weeping Monk, but he just kind of walked around looking angsty in his monk cloak thing. You have this whole village, not all Fae people. I'm not going to assume that they all know how to fight and they all have powers, because, you know, we don't even know, because this world building didn't even bother to tell us. But you know that there's a group of elders who are obviously skilled, and you would presume that people would at least try and fight. I was genuinely seeing people just walking around and they would get thrown to the ground, okay, death, the end. You know, they've held seances, they're quite powerful beings. Why are you not fighting back? Yes, of course, this was done for plot purposes, but I wanted this to be believable, and it's again that issue of not being able to immerse yourself in the scenes fully. Now we have to talk about the river scene, because me and my best friend had the best time trashing this. So you have Arthur, who clearly has feelings for Nimue. I mean, if a boy tried to put someone else's hat on me, I never would have spoken to him again. But you know, Nimue is very flattered, apparently. And when they are both in the river having a bath, Arthur gives the hint thing. When Nimue actually wants to kiss him, he says, oh sorry, no, changed my mind. Where is the logic? Their first kiss scene to me at that party, again with the romantic sounds coming up, how perfect would it have been to have their first kiss at the river? Because yes, it's very cliche and it would have been a very predictable scene, but the mood was there, you know, the audience was very invested, you were kind of on the edge of your seat. At the party, she literally drags him, oh here we go, let's make out. I don't have feelings. The romantic sounds are not going to change my mind, okay? It didn't work. Now, the character that deserved so much more was Morgana. I have never felt so betrayed as I had with Morgana's character development, or lack thereof. She's such an integral part of the Arthur legend that I honestly feel like this was such a missed opportunity with her. What was the point of giving us these very pathetic hints throughout? She spent half of the series friends with this spider that was crawling around taking a tour of the human anatomy. There was just such a huge inconsistency between showing the audience what happened and the results thereafter. I just felt very incomplete in her story throughout the whole season. Watching this series with subtitles was a whole different experience, not in a good way. Whenever they showed the sword and the words mystical twinkling came up on screen, what was that? Now we have to talk about the sword being thrown into the abyss, because I have never laughed so much in my life. When Nimue is having her little breakdown and she's saying, what are we even doing here? I don't want to do this anymore. And she flings it into nothing. Girl, listen. This is clearly a very important artifact, and that was the most unnatural way of throwing a sword that I've ever seen. Not that I have experience in throwing swords off of mountains, but what are you doing? It's not that the script is bad, which it is, but I don't understand how a high-profile production like this would have so many awkward scenes like that. This is what it looked like, right? She's walking around. Oops. Oscar nomination immediately. And then the whole splitting up situation made me die even more, because I think we've learned from experience of watching a lot of stuff over the years, you do not split up, okay? It doesn't matter how important the person is. I mean, if Nimue and Kaze, who I love, favourite general in North of the Land. But if they went to do something productive, I would have understood the situation. You know, one person goes to get the sword, the other two carry on with the important task, but they just sat in a temple. Wonder when Morgana's gonna get here. You know, she's getting eaten by a spider, sort of, but we'll just chill. The thing that irked me beyond life was Doff's death. Okay, first of all, subjective love for him aside, because the whole aesthetic is everything. I genuinely thought I skipped a scene by accident. You know, sometimes you look away from the TV and you don't notice what happened. I returned to the scene thinking I'm going to have an explanation as to why Doff is lying on the floor dying, but instead I was just faced with more disappointment. So you have Pym being scared of going to attack the village. Doff says, no, listen, I'm going to give you this necklace. It's going to protect you. Cue to her lying in a carriage full of blood on her, and you're just thinking, oh, how does a whole Viking ship get attacked like this? There's unfinished business with epic fantasy series. There's an expectation that you're going to have action, and so you can't have these massive attacks and fights happen off screen. Now the cast was fantastic. Given the script, I think they all did a really good job. I mean, the Lancelot reveal and the story that we're looking into now, if there's a season 2, saved the whole season for me because I screamed with excitement. I love Lancelot as a character because even him existing within this universe is really cool. When you look at the actual legend, he was very integral to Arthur's Round Table, and he played a massive part in the marriage of Guinevere and Arthur by having an affair with her. And I think that we're going to have a love square situation on our hands. Now, one scene that I really loved was the attack on the mill. I thought that was such a great development scene because you have these characters that are not really friendly, but they are forced to work together because they're being attacked on all sides. I thought it was shot really well, and it really gave me hope in the series because it was a very good bonding experience for a lot of these people. So I think that's all I'm going to say for this review. I know this was a rant review and that was the purpose, to get things off my chest, but this wasn't the worst. I'm just very disappointed in how everything turned out because I had such high hopes. The characters were great. There's so much potential, especially with Lancelot and now Percival as well, who's also a knight from the Round Table. So we're going to have a little bit of a situation where Arthur will possibly be on a route to becoming king and then having all of the characters be some kind of version of the knights. I think that will be awesome. I will for sure be watching if there are more seasons just to see whether they improve on everything that I've just mentioned. Of course, this is all very subjective, so do let me know what you thought. Do you agree with any of my points? What would you like to happen in season 2? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was so much fun to film. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!